Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I hope that everyone's doing well. Welcome to the Sedelia Njai Show. I am your host, Sedelia Njai. I'm so happy to have you guys here joining me tonight. We have another really great edition and show planned for you guys tonight. I want to let you guys know that first and foremost, this episode of the Sedelia Njai Show is sponsored by Tandem Media. Tandem Media is, again, guys, an incredible studio space located here in Toronto. They also provide services like strategic planning, brand development, and marketing. Anything that you need, guys, they'll take care of you guys. They bring a unique approach from consult to execution. I've partnered with them before as well. In terms of strategic planning, they offer services such as content creation, media planning, analytics and insights. When it comes to brand development, they offer creative, brand development strategies, branding identity and design, as well as strategy and planning. The marketing department, again, content creation, campaign development, influencer outreach, launching different events. And again, if you are either trying to have an event or you need to do a photo shoot or a video shoot, they have an incredible studio space. They actually are going to be having a paint and sip night. Ooh, fun. That's going to be happening on July 18th. So make sure that you look out for that on my page. And you guys, Tandem Media, all the information you need is right there. Do what you got to do. Tonight's special guest is Nicola Aziz. We're in for a really incredible treat, guys. Nicola Aziz is a writer. Okay, he's a youth mentor. He is an art curator. He's a performance artist. I can just go on and on and on. I first met Nicholas in Atlanta, actually, when I was there during college. We met while we were in school. He went to Morehouse College, and I went to Clark Atlanta University, and I knew instantly that he was going to be, really going to be doing really amazing things in his career, and he's here to share that with us tonight. We're going to touch a little bit on a lot of things. You guys know by now how the Sedelia Njai Show works. We're going to get to learn more about Nick Aziz as a creative, but we're also going to touch on some really interesting topics. Still, you guys, we can't just forget this Black Lives Matters movement that's happening. We have to remember that we still have to play our part, and that's what we're doing here on the Sedelia Njai Show. So Nick is going to contribute to that conversation from the standpoint, of art, especially museums and the role that it plays in systemic racism. Ooh, interesting. All right, well, I think Nick is in the building. Nicholas, we're so grateful to have you on here. Let's get you on. We're going to be joined. You guys for those of you who are here, thank you for joining us. Go ahead and put just a couple of claps in here for Nick while we wait for him to connect with us. Hello.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Look at you. You look well rested today.
I'll take that. This is like new for me. I think this is my first time ever doing something like this.
Oh yeah, this is your first live?
First live Instagram.
Well, lucky me, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we're really excited to have you on tonight, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on the Sedelia Njai Show. I think to start off with, why don't you just tell us how you've been doing with COVID and coping with this whole Black Lives Matter movement? How are you feeling mentally and emotionally? Are you hanging in there, King?
Yeah. I mean, it's I definitely been having to balance in a new way. I think I've been saying recently, unfortunately, none of this is new. I did some art in 2016 that was, when we had, I think at that point by July, we had like 137 Black people killed by police that year. And it was a very similar era to now. But I think the difference now is that we're all in isolation. So we're seeing it more. We're having to just ingest it all more. And so, I've been having to just really, tap into a different source just to cope with it. Because I think, professionally, artistically, I'm in a different space than I was 4 years ago. So exactly. I'm being asked to have a lot of different conversations and push things. So it's been tougher, but
Yeah.
yeah, we're built for this. So
I was gonna say we're built for that, but yeah, but we have to do our part for sure. So I'm really happy to hear that you are coping. What have you found has been the greatest coping strategy or mechanism for maybe other brothers out there who are just like completely lost? What has been most effective for you in terms of coping strategies?
I mean, definitely art making. Art has always been a escape for me, and so
Yes.
I felt in like one of the better pre like once COVID the shutdowns happened, I felt really in an amazing creative space. Like I felt one of the best I have my entire life, really. And then I just also too try to like find joy in like more kind of simple things that I feel like sometimes maybe take for granted. Like I've gotten really into just like getting really good ass takeout. So like I've been like just like
I'm here
something
for
like
it. What kind of food do you like, Nick? What kind of takeout?
man, somebody a friend of one of my friends recently this week said like I eat like a king. I just like there's this amazing oyster spot here that I found recently.
Okay.
The best Gulf oysters I've had in my life, raw Gulf oysters.
Nice.
I love sashimi. I
You're a
love
foodie,
obviously.
huh?
No, like I've learned that I'm a foodie. People have told me, they're like, yo, you eat like you just love to eat. And I'm like, yeah, I love to eat. Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah, I think for me too, I've really enjoyed cooking. I mean, I always cooked a lot, but I've taken this opportunity to like really experiment, like get my top chef on, try like cuisine that I've never even attempted before. Like was like, whoa. So it's been really interesting. That's really great to hear.
Yeah.
Um, that's really awesome. Well, Nick, again, I'm so happy that you're here. And I told a lot of people, we're gonna dive right in, guys. I know that you're a jack of many trades, right? You again are a writer, a curator, a performance artist, a youth mentor. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the writing? I know that you are a contributor with the Huffington Post, and I just want to know, like, what as a means of expression, what impact has writing had on your life?
Man, writing was I think writing and photography I think are the most just like rudimentary forms of art. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
like
No, I'm biased, Nick. I'm a spoken word artist, so
yeah,
writing I have a soft spot for.
yeah, no, I mean it's the first it's like the first mode of art we all learn, really.
Right.
Language, the way language, the way we connect with people, the way we share our feelings. And so um writing, I think I was definitely given that gift by the higher power. Just so I've been writing my entire life. Like apparently when I was in like kindergarten,
Wow.
my teacher used to tell my mom about just like my talent for writing. So I think it's I've been blessed that it's been something that's always been there. And so
Right.
thankfully I think in high school, particularly post Katrina, got different supports and affirmations for my skill in writing, and I got way more involved, whether it was writing poetry or writing newspaper articles, and I just got that support and that affirmation. And so once I got to college, was when I really I think dove into writing. Obviously, like when we were in school together, like I was writing for the newspaper.
I remember.
Yeah, and became I started off as an editor. I think by the time I was a sophomore, and then I became editor in chief. For junior and senior year. So I was
Right.
writing, and I started writing for Huffington Post junior year of college. So writing has just always been that escape and that really fundamental form of art making to me that just allows me to express my feelings and my thoughts.
Absolutely. As you said, I think it's so interesting because, again, I think we overlook that it is, again, this most rudimentary form of art that, we're like, it's even ingrained, schooling and everything. We don't even really think about it because we might feel like we have to be put in a box, especially when we think about academic writing. But there's so much, language itself is a really powerful thing. That's what I love most about it, for sure. And thinking about the art curation side, I know you said you love photography so much, but thinking about the art curation side, and you've developed quite a repertoire in terms of exhibits that you've worked on. So I guess you could just recap. What is your relationship and affinity with art?
And I mean, it really kind of starts with a little bit of what's behind me.
Oh yeah,
So,
nice. Let's see that piece. Okay.
yeah, so I
Uh-huh.
mean, this one piece. My grandfather and my mother born in Haiti, and so
Okay.
my grandfather he just had an amazing immigrant story. Just was an amazing human being, and he while he was in medical school in Montreal. He's the only black person in his class at that time, and
Hmm.
while he was in Montreal, he decided to start a Haitian art collection,
Okay.
just with the sheer intent of just staying connected to his homeland of Haiti. And so
Right.
that collection, from that point, he started collecting, and then he met my grandmother in 1956, and they married in that same year, and then started collecting themselves. And that collection has now grown to over 400 pieces of Haitian art. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. And
That's wild.
so I got to grow up around this my entire life, to the point, I didn't even realize how special it was. And, my parents' house, it was always, filled with Haitian art, my grandfather's house. And then when he passed away in 2011, my mom didn't even know how much artwork he actually had. And so,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
was a kind of finding this lost treasure in a way.
Just like even like generational wealth or something. It was just passed down. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I think my art practice starts with that, just really being surrounded by images of Black beauty and excellence, and not even understanding, the subconscious influence that was having on me. So, like, as I continue to grow older, just seeing the ways that is like now sprouting out in my creativity and my thinking is, yeah, it's just it's been there.
Yeah. And so what has become of this collection? What are you doing with that collection now?
Yeah. So I think my first show that I ever curated was with the collection. That was in
Nice.
2015, and that was with the Arts Council of New Orleans here, and it was about 20 pieces or so, and that really just started me on this path. Like when that was 2015. I'd say maybe 2 years before that, I didn't even know what the term curator was. I even though I was always around it and always seeing people produce and make art, but I wasn't in it like I ended up becoming. So
Right.
I just really just had this interest and this passion to spread Haiti's importance and message, particularly in relationship to New Orleans, to the city. And so I just decided to curate this show. I put it together, and kind of going back to the idea of affirmation, like people came to the show and they were like, yo, this was amazing. And I was just like, oh, I just, I hung it myself. I did everything myself. And
Interesting.
yeah, people were just got a lot of good feedback, and I was like, oh, this is
Like, hey, I
something
can do this. I can do
yeah,
this.
yeah. And so, like, the rest is kind of history. I just continued curating show. I think my next one was 2 years later with the collection, and then I also did another group show that was a collection of local, national, international artists that same year. So I've just gotten a rhythm of curating shows and then making my own artwork, and yeah, it's just kind of brought me to where I am.
I think that's a really incredible story. I think people always seem to think that they have to look far to find their destiny. Your destiny normally comes out of, what's literally around you. You just have to open your eyes and exercise gratefulness and discernment, and just again this vision of opening, just looking, use what's around you, right? It's
Yeah.
not always that complicated. We overcomplicate these things.
Yeah. No, we definitely. I think so much of we're sometimes forced to overthink so many things. Like this is something that came very natural to me, and it continues to
Absolutely.
come natural. And it's like it's coming natural because, like, I literally grew up around it, and I mean I can't even help it. It's like the way I see culture, the way I particularly see Haitian culture, is just something that, like, was literally next to my bed. Like it was like
Right.
I had no choice but to absorb it in this way. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I didn't mention to the audience that, Nick is joining us tonight, all the way from New Orleans, baby.
Yes.
So this is really cool. We've had a lot of different guests on the show, but you are our first New Orleans guest. So we're excited about that. You know, and outside of obviously your family legacy and your grandfather's collection, what kind of art do you typically enjoy curating?
I love curating art that has a strong historical context.
Okay.
So like the show that I curated, it was like I said, it was 2017.
Mm-hmm.
It was a group show of 26 local, national, international artists, and that was my first show that wasn't with the collection. So like that was like a big step for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it was called Alien versus Predator, and so
Okay.
I was basically I mean, obviously, yeah, like a lot of people know the movie, but I was exploring the term super predator. That was a product of Bill Clinton's crime bill that really spurred a lot of the mass incarceration that we see today. And so yeah, like that show was just really like the kind of question I posed was, who's the predator? Because it was this idea of, you know, this term that was created from this crime bill that was, um, led to the incarceration of Black, Latinx, people, in the mass numbers that we see today. So it was like, who's the real predator in this case? Like, so all the work kind of touched on this idea of questioning who's the real predator. And yeah, it was going back to this 1994 crime bill and then really like unearthing kind of like that history. And yeah, similar, like I think all of my shows really have like a historical background and footing. So I like history. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really incredible, and I think that you know, someone who enjoys history so much, you must understand the importance of you know, art in history. So you know, I ask you, what's the importance, you think, of preserving our culture and history through art?
Yeah. I mean, I see. I think it's important in all across sectors, across industries. But I think art is special in that like it's the most human, it's the most natural, it's the most just kind of fundamentally human field in a lot of ways, and it's also the most fluid. And I think like art has the ability to push the boundaries in ways that maybe law can't or government can't. And so I think like with my work, a lot of it, there's an artist who I admire who said like he makes work to really talk to his younger self. And so like I think I like to think I do the same in that when I was in high school, even after Katrina, I literally failed American history, and and there were times even before that, like pre-Katrina, when I was in high school, I was in an all Catholic male white high school here. Like I was coming home to my parents telling them that I was dumb and mediocre and that they had to accept that. And so I think the importance of history, and particularly in relation to art, is really showing yourself to yourself in a lot of ways, like creating this like metaphorical mirror. Because like, for instance, when I did this show in 2017 with my family's collection at this place here in New Orleans, the security guard at the show, he watched me the entire time installing it and everything. And once I was done, he came up to me and said, "Yo, I've never seen Black people in paintings like this." So, and it's like a 40-some-year-old man.
Wow.
And so like I look at it as like, he saw himself in this work. It's that mirror, and it's like, showing him like, oh, like I'm from New Orleans. Oh, I've never seen people who look like me in paintings like this. Why? Also, oh wait, like New Orleans is New Orleans because Haiti doubled the population of New Orleans following the Haitian Revolution, and oh, like Haiti brought shotgun houses and second line into New Orleans. Like, oh snap! Like I'm looking in the mirror at myself in this painting.
Right.
So
Right.
I think,
How
yeah.
does that make you feel, though, Nicholas? Like seeing, like, you know, having that interaction.
It made me feel amazing, honestly. I mean, I think that's as artists, all we can do is take a feeling that we have and thoughts that we have and put them out in the world and hope that other people feel that, and feel it in deep, and clearly, he felt that in such a deep way, such a profound way. It was like, and he didn't have to tell me that. There was a level, I think, of beauty and vulnerability in him coming to me and saying, "Yo, like I've never seen Black people in paintings like this."
Right.
And like, you know, then it also too, for me, was like a lesson, because I was like, you know, I am in some ways in that instance coming from a place of privilege. Like, oh, I have been around these paintings like this my entire life, you know, like, and so like that, and still, you know, was, had afflictions of white barbarism in my consciousness when I was a kid, you know, and self-doubt and lack of self, you know. So it just shows the power. Obviously, that's a whole nother conversation, but just shows the power of those structures. But it just affirms the power of history and us sharing our histories that have been buried. And I think art's the best and most like emphatic way to do that, you know.
Absolutely. And you know, as you're navigating this, you know, this culture through art culture rather, you know, how do you find we are, especially as a Black man, it's already hard enough, I feel like, finding our place in the world, right? Black people, so I can only, you know, only imagine even more for Black men. So in this frame, you know, of art, how do you find your place, or how did you find your place rather, Nick, in the contemporary art world as a Black man?
Yeah, I'd say thankfully, you know, around like 2016, late 2016, early 2017, I think I really had a pivot. It was just like a very pivotal moment for me. I got fired from a job in February of 2017.
Okay.
And,
I'm ready for this story. Let me hear it, honey.
well, I mean, the job, I'm not gonna throw too much shade, but it was they referred to themselves as a social justice consultancy, and I think conceptually it was a, you know, great idea, but there were a lot of just like internal issues, and so I got fired, and you know, very soon after that, like the organization really just kind of like, you know, other people left, and you know, it was a bad situation for everybody involved. And so after that moment, I began working at an artist residency program here called the Joan Mitchell Center. And so that center is supported by the Joan Mitchell Foundation in New York, and it brings to New Orleans artists, some of the top contemporary artists in the world, you know, like I was there for essentially six to 7 months, and I was the residency program assistant. So like when artists would come in town, you know, and they would have local artists there as well. But you know, when these artists would come in town, one of my jobs was just like acclimating them to the city and supporting them and like helping them, you know, do what they need. So I was essentially like an artist assistant for artists and residents. And like, you know, one example, you know, like the artist Amy Sherrill, who was commissioned to paint Michelle Obama. You know, she was an artist. Just to kind of give you an idea of the caliber, you know, of artists who was there at the time. So that was that moment, like those months, was very affirming for me, because you know, I was getting to engage with artists of that caliber, but also see how some of my thoughts and ideas and my voice really was had a space in this, you know, work. And you know, and I got to a point where, you know, I was sharing my ideas and thoughts with these artists, and like they would be like, yo, that's a good idea, like, you know, and like some of them, you know, I was curating a show, you know.
You're like, I'm lucky, brilliant now.
No, but like I was the Alien versus Predator show that I mentioned earlier. I was curating that show while I was working at this center. And so like you know, some of the artists, I would share the curatorial statement with them, and they'd be like, yo, this is good, you know. And so like I think that was really big for me, and from there I kind of went down the rabbit hole of like you know, like learning about other artists who make work like I wanted to make, like for instance, two artists I look up to very greatly is Hank Willis Thomas and Sanford Biggers. Sanford Biggers actually went to Morehouse.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so like you know, and I've been, you know, blessed to meet both of them since this time. And it's just like, yeah, just seeing two Black men who are doing it and learning about other Black artists, whether they're men, women, you know, whatever, just who are doing it, and see, once again, going back to, I think, that idea of the mirror, like seeing people who look like me doing, you know, what I really hope to do, you know, so.
And now you can create that path again. I think that's so important. There's other young Black boys who are seeing another Black man like you doing these things, right? And imagine the impact that that has. We're going to talk about your youth mentorship program a little bit later, and how you're giving back to the community, which is absolutely essential. But you know what, Nick, as a performance artist, sidebar, because I have some Toronto guests in the building who like have no idea about HBCUs. Can you believe these people?
Hey, you know, it's all good.
First of all, I'm gonna need you guys to get your whole life together, okay?
We can educate them.
HBCUs are what's happening. So, you know, for those of my Toronto guests, again, we've had these conversations. I told you HBCUs are historically Black colleges that were created during a time when Black people couldn't receive education in white institutions, right? So they created their own. That's what we do best. You deny us, we're going to make it our own and make it even better. So, okay, my friend, don't come for us. All right, everybody calm down. So, Morehouse, you know, where Nick went is, you know, that's where Dr. King went. It's basically known, it's been coined as like the Black male Harvard-ish, okay? Yeah. So y'all better read up. Y'all better learn today, okay? Yeah. As a performance artist, Nick, I think that you're pretty controversial, honey. I'm gonna be real with you, but
I don't think so, you know, but I'll take that.
You know, I think art, again, what's the point? It's open for interpretation. Art, I believe, is supposed to be a catalyst for conversation.
Yeah, true.
The important one. So, you know, when we use this word controversial, we throw it around, but it has a negative connotation at times, but I don't believe it has a negative connotation at all. Right? No. I think that it's again supposed to serve as a catalyst or a devil's advocate at times to draw out the right questions and the right thought processes, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I want to know. I'm so curious about your process. Even I'm gonna put some images up. You guys will get a taste of a little bit of his performance work. Nick is all over the place, honey. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think process-wise, like. I think, like I kind of mentioned before, I think so much of my interest and my root is really based in history. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for instance, like this image that's up right now, this was me really exploring the history of Black bodies and Blackness in the Western Hemisphere, really. And so this particular piece was a performance piece I did called Black Thoughts, White Noise. And so
Ooh, I like that. Black Thoughts, White Noise. Y'all think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
Good.
So I performed this in Telluride, Colorado, which is for those who don't know, like I think it's apparently it's the Hamptons of Colorado, which somebody told me. So it's extremely white.
Okay.
It's just extremely wealthy, and so I really wanted to bring some of my just ideas and thoughts to that space from that, bringing something that I'm sure the majority of them don't talk about on the regular. So
sure.
This piece, part of it was I created this sound piece that was that had different sounds that I think we all associate with Blackness. So the underlying tone of the sound piece, it was about 4 minutes, was the sound of the Atlantic Ocean, and then in and out, you would hear sounds associated with Blackness. So you would hear police sirens, you would hear gunshots, you would hear basketballs dribbling, you would hear trumpets, you would hear barber clippers, you would hear chains, you would hear just all these different sounds. And so my body would then, respond to those sounds. And so like I was, kind of like circling around this tree stump. And I think that the tree stump for me was significant because within the Vodou religion, trees are extremely important. So like that was kind of like touching on my Haitian roots, but I also think just touching on African spirituality itself. And so
this thing of life, right? This idea,
right? Exactly. And so but on my body, then there would be different words associated with.
We see you know, white power, right. I believe.
Right. Music. Power, matter, music, and so that everybody who viewed the piece, you would get this card, and on the card it would say, "What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word Black?" Mm-hmm. And so that just got you thinking about if it is negative, why is it negative? If it's positive, if it's white, like, I mean, just what comes to mind when you just hear that word. And so I'm really inspired by just the construct of Blackness as well, because like I mentioned, one of the artists I look up to, Hank Willis Thomas, one of my favorite quotes that he has is, the craziest thing about Blackness is that Black people didn't create it. And so it's this idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you just, so
Yeah.
it's like, this idea of what Blackness is really something that was given to us, because prior to the creation of race, or prior to the creation of, what we have come to learn as race, it's
We
just
were
like,
just awesome beings.
right. Yeah, we were just people. We were just people creating, doing our
Right.
thing. And like now, Blackness has gotten this box, and so like I'm really interested in like what we have put into that box, and how that box restricts us from doing certain things, or having certain thoughts, or engaging with certain people, or all that. So like this piece was kind of like touching on that, and just thinking about it from the context of like going back to like that idea of like the Atlantic Ocean being like that fundamental sound, because like that was obviously so integral in how we
Absolutely.
look
With
at
the
Blackness in the
slave trade.
America. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's absolutely true. I am from Senegal, so we're bordered by the Atlantic Ocean. I even mentioned to you, as we were speaking about your Andrew Warhol Fellowship, which we'll touch on later, that the Gore Island is literally where most of not like I'm saying like over 80% of the slaves were shipped from there. Like before coming to America, so. Yeah, so that's really the Atlantic Ocean is really powerful too. I remember, as a Senegalese too, like growing up, like going to visit all the time, or even when I lived there. There's we have a really intimate relationship with the sea that's really unexplainable. Um, I think that performance art. The first time I even realized that like that was like possible or a thing. I don't know for you, but was I went to SCAD.
Yeah.
The Savannah College of Art and Design, and it's one of the top art schools in the country, in America rather, and globally actually. But I remember in class, I can't remember. I think it was a contemporary art class I was taking, and we had to watch we watched a documentary in class that was by this contemporary artist called Marina Abramovic, called "The Artist Is Present."
Yeah.
And I remember being very like emotionally drawn, and the woman was just sitting in a chair, like her performance art was just sitting in a chair, and like having people like a whole like a line, she had like millions of people line up just to walk up to her and like stand there for like 5 minutes or something and just stare into her eyes, like that was it.
Yeah.
And these people ended up like crying, like healing, like it was crazy, Nick. I was like, what is happening right now? Like the woman just staring at them. And then as I was watching the doctor, I started like feeling the emotions that these people were feeling when they would go and see her, and then her to like literally be like transmitting energy to another human being. She was sitting there, the exhibit, for like over 10 hours a day, like just sitting a day. So that was, that's an extreme example, but I'm just saying that as a reference to just talk about my first experience with performance art, and that's what made me realize how much of a symbolic act it was. And so I want to know, I have to ask that to you. What is the symbolism behind your work? Do you find that you have a general theme that you generally gravitate towards?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is rooted in just like personal experiences and conversations with my friends. My experience as a Haitian American, my experience as someone who once, because of the structures of this country, thought they were beneath a certain other population of people.
Right.
And so like I think in a lot of ways, like that period of my life where I thought I was lesser than, like, really fuels, I think, a lot of what I do and put out, because I really believe, like I was saying before, like that idea of having a conversation with your younger self, like, when I was younger, I thought a certain way. That was that was destructive. And so I think a lot of my work is centered around the idea of like literally and, you know, figuratively kind of releasing those chains and spreading truth and spreading the truth that uplifts that young boy who thought he was lesser than, you know.
Absolutely. How powerful to grow out of that. And I understand that it's still a process, right? We still have doubts of these moments, and we exhibit what is called the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no, I had that.
That shit is real.
Yeah, very real. When I saw Michelle Obama say she had imposter syndrome, I was like, okay.
All right, it's normal. No, no, you know what, Nick? And you'll have to be sure to tune in, guys. We're going to even have another guest who's a Black psychologist who will be dedicating a whole conversation to imposter syndrome, because it's like, it's really like kind of like people don't really know about it. And actually, like, everyone goes through it. Over 80%, they say, or no, 70%, sorry, of humans experience it at one point in their lives. And it affects all people, regardless of race, gender, age, you name it. So that's really, really, really crazy. It's really real. So that's intense. But, you know, going back to your work, you use the Confederate flag, honey, in a lot of your work. Honey, you are riling them up. Okay, that's all. I'm here for it. You know, for example, this picture that I just put up, this assemblage. Nick, how's your French? I'm gonna need you, talking about you Haitian, I'm gonna need you to be fluent by now.
I'm not gonna say I'm fluent. I can have a solid conversation.
It's okay. We're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on this.
And my Creole, also Creole, because I need to. That's what I feel worse about, actually. Like I hate that I cannot have good Creole conversations yet, but it's coming. So that's part of the journey.
Yeah, I was gonna say, be patient with yourself. It'll come. At least you're aware of it, so now you can do something about it, right? Yeah. But you know, I'm biased again here as a Senegalese. We're French speakers, so I love it. There's a lot of Haitians here in Toronto as well. So, as I'm sure you know, you've been to you know, different parts of Canada. But yeah, back to this assemblage. You know, this piece, this photograph. I'm sorry, this isn't the photograph you auctioned. There's another one that we're going to come to after that. But this is one of the first examples that we have of you using the Confederate flag. Talk a little bit about why you use the Confederate flag so much in your work.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different reasons. I mean, one is that I'm really obsessed with the idea of freedom, particularly as Africans of the diaspora, like what that means to us, what that means to us in a contemporary context, whether it's like how we wear our hair or what music we listen to or who we choose to love, whatever. Like freedom, I think, is a big part of that. And as people of the diaspora, particularly in the United States, you know, this flag literally represents the antithesis of that freedom. And so I'm really just fascinated with the flag, with the idea of, like, you know, what it meant and what it continues to mean. And so like really and have become a little bit obsessed with, you know, recontextualizing that flag however I can. And so with this piece, you're seeing this piece was one I collaborated with an artist and a really good friend of mine named T-Rock Moore on in 2017. And so this piece was it's called New Wars, New Stories, New Heroes. And so this was atop the former General Beauregard statue that was in New Orleans. And this statue was put up in 2015 in New Orleans in front of City Park. City Park actually is where the museum that I work at is located. So the statue sat in front of that museum, in front of that park, which is a former plantation, for 100 years until 2015, when the City Council of New Orleans voted to take the statue down. In 2017, they took the equestrian, the General Beauregard off, and on his horse. They took him off, and this plinth was vacant for almost an entire year. And so me and T-Rock, you know, decided to create this piece in a way to really capture that moment, because they were planning to, you know, destroy the plinth as well. Right. And so just simply, you know, I took a Confederate flag. It was somewhat of a cathartic process of just like burning holes in it, taking ripping it apart and putting fire to it and putting it ablaze. And then, got on top of this Miami at the middle of the night and got this shot. And, speaking
I
to that
really
idea.
enjoyed the lighting too and the editing of the shot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it obviously, even now, speaks so much as people all across the world are taking down these monuments of, white barbarism. It's like, they are, we are, affirming that idea of new stories, new heroes.
Right.
And so, yeah, this piece will always, I think, be extremely sentimental to me, and just, I think, to just anyone, particularly in this moment of like really thinking about what we've been conditioned to believe, and what we like. I used to see this monument, as a kid, and I think nothing of it. All these monuments across the world, I used to see them all the time, and I think even to that, another layer of it is like, Beauregard was actually the general who led the creation of the Confederate flag, and so,
Okay.
I was just talking with, my friend earlier about just like how, how important that is. Like this
Right.
idea, me, like, just having the freedom, going back to the idea of freedom to do this in this moment, 3 years ago, and now have that statement be in some ways immortalized. Like this piece is something that will live on, way past the time that I'm on this planet, in this realm. Yeah, it's just a lot of layers to it.
And that's what, remember, when we said, when I said in our conversation that, that's what's so beautiful about it too. A lot of the work, though it is, gaining a lot of recognition, a lot of, I just look around, like the greatest things or people, we could say, in history, they weren't even recognized until they were gone. So what you're doing today, even though it's having incredible impact, which is amazing, trust me, it will have even like, just imagine what impact it'll have when you're gone. And that's what I think we should work towards very selflessly, right?
Yeah.
And so your next image that I have here, where you're using the Confederate flag again, you have a lot of striking images here: fried chicken, honey guns, the things that are killing Black people, handcuffs, I guess, my interpretation.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about the inspiration behind this.
Yeah, this one, so the title of it is Family Dinner, Finger Clicking Good. And so the inspiration behind this, obviously, like you just said, all these images are very charged images in the United States, American
Is the cotton I'm seeing here?
That's cotton, yeah. So so the inspiration from this came when I was doing that Alien versus Predator show in 2017. There was an artist who submitted a piece that was he literally just like painted on a piece of wood the logo of Core Civic. And so for those who don't know, Core Civic is a $1.8 billion publicly traded private prison corporation. Okay. And so they're obviously, the largest private prison corporation in the world. That's a damn near $2 billion publicly traded company. And so from that, just learning about that, through this show, I was like, Core Civic, like, one, why don't I know about this? And so I just kind of like did some digging, and through that digging found that just found some crazy connections about the company. So it was founded, I believe, in 1983. Okay. I think it was 4 or 5 months after Ronald Reagan declared the war on drugs. Okay. And so, like, just thinking about the intent of that, like the president declares a war on drugs, and hey, we're gonna start a private prison corporation that's now $2 billion publicly traded. There's intent there, there's strategy there. That's business. So then going deeper than that, there was 3 founders. One of the founders of that of the company, prior to founding Core Civic, he ran a cotton plantation in Texas, and so that's kind of where the idea of the cotton comes in. But even deeper than that, one of their largest initial investors was a guy named Jack Massey. Jack Massey was an entrepreneur who in 1964 bought KFC for $2 million, and then 7 years later sold it for $239 million. So that's obviously it was a crazy profit, particularly in 1971. And so he would then go on to use that profit to become the largest for-profit hospital chain in the country, and then also invest in CoreCivic. So this,
Wow.
the largest private prison corporation in the world is very deeply connected to the second largest restaurant chain in the world, KFC. You know, that's crazy to me. You know, and it just really, I hope, you know, that story
And indisputable facts once you do the research.
Yeah, and it's like it just shows really how this is all everything we're experiencing now with you know, racism and white barbarism and all this. You know, it's a product of it was strategy, and there was so much intent and you know, calculated moves behind all this. Like this, it should be no surprise that these things are connected, but like, you know, we have not been shown that they're connected, and like there's a reason behind that too. You know? Yeah, so it's like yeah, this piece is just shedding light on that, and you know, and really trying to present it in a you know, I've had some people look at pieces like, wow, all these things that are in this photo are so American, you know, and it's like that is somewhat of a deep, you know, and profound statement. Like guns and chicken are so American, and cotton are so American.
Right.
You know, it's like handcuffs are so American, police brutality is so American. You know, so the Confederate flag is so American. The irony of that, you know, like it's like and so all these elements of this photo are so American, and also so American is intent and malice behind the oppression of people who look like us, you know, down to CoreCivic and KFC, you know. So that's why it's like family dinner. Like somebody, I was watching a speaker speak one time, a Haitian woman who was one of the most amazing speakers I ever I've seen, and she said the Civil War wasn't a war, it was a family dispute. And like I was like, that's some real shit, you know, like so like, you know, like that thought sat with me. So like this idea of like, you know, family dinner, you know, like these people were family members who were making these moves over food, over chicken. Like,
yeah, breaking bread. We know the power of breaking bread. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. You know, we have about 12 minutes left before the live cuts off, and we're still here with you, but I just wanted to, because I want to talk about your most recent work that I think is really impactful, but I want to go ahead and cut this live just because I know it's going to, we're going to show a video to you guys, to our audience, featuring your latest work, and talk a little bit about the series that it is a part of. So again, if it's okay with you, Nick, before we do that, I'd like to go ahead and cut this video off and bring us back on, if that's all right.
Sounds good. See.
All right, amazing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with our special guest tonight, Nicola Aziz. Again, writer, curator, performance artist, youth mentor. He is here joining us. This episode of the Sedalia and Jai Show is brought to you by Tandem Media. For all of your great studio space here in Toronto, all of your studio space needs, all of your branding and marketing needs, you better hit them up. You know what's up. So we're going to be right back. All right, Nick, see you soon.
See you in a second.